All right, guys, Club Tuesday, bringing our friend Mike Zakarian from Team Hold on to tell us about his All-Star game experiences out at Salt Lake City. We all got Mac McClung fever. We'll break it all down. Also, some interesting stuff going on in the NFT space with Blur's Marketplace, a battle with Opensea. And God, my fucking Moonbirds are down bad. We can hold a eulogy for my round trip there. All today on the Club. All right, we got Andy, we got Clay, we got Mike. Real quick, Andy or Clay, are you got Mardi Gras breeds on? Is that what we got going on?
Yeah, baby. Happy Fat Tuesday, everyone out there. Happy Mardi Gras.
Wow. I completely forgot to observe that holiday. I'm glad you're picking up the slack.
Yeah, same. I'm really letting everyone down.
Yeah, carrying the flame for everyone out here, you know?
Clay, I feel like you do a good job. You're the kind of person that, like, when it's St. Patty's Day, you and Stacy will be making like homemade green beer. Like, you guys are just that kind of couple, I feel like.
Actually, you know what's funny? Certainly not, especially not in her regard. I like to dip my toe in the pool. I don't know if I'm going green beer, but I do have a, custom engraved Guinness glass. So we pick our spots. That's from working on Guinness, to be fair. So that came from the source. That's not, there's levels to it. All right.
Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Good. The weather in New York's like starting to look a little nicer. It was like 60 yesterday. It was great. Yeah, my bags are down a little bit today, but overall I feel like the vibes are up a little bit. We're getting there.
So funny when you say the market's down a little bit? The only time I ever check the price of Ethereum and Bitcoin is when I see you do the little post to the guy with the O face and the green arrow. That's my signal to go check it. I'm like, oh yeah, we are up 0.02% today. Yeah. I used to have the widget on my phone where I would see the price, and then you go through the bear market, you take that off, and now you are my check the price signal. Literally the only time is when I see your posts, I run to check. Mike, fresh off of a trip to Salt Lake City. When did you get back? Did you take the red eye back?
No, I got back last night at like 10 o'clock, I think. So okay. I wasn't brave enough to do a full red eye experience. So no, thank you.
Yeah. And tell me about it. You went out there with So Rare. You got to go to all of the various events. You did some man on the street content. What was the scene like?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had never been to Utah either, so everybody's just kind of like, oh yeah, dude, Salt Lake. Good luck out there, dude. It'll be a lot of fun. It's great. It's fine. It was a really good time. But yeah, So Rare reached out to us. I think it was like exactly a week before. So it was like last Friday, and they're like, hey, we get some tickets if you guys are down to go out there and make some content. So it was a quick turnaround to make it happen. And but it was awesome. I had my first All-Star game experience. It was almost like a famous Summer League, I'd call it. Like, because Summer League, you're competing with Vegas a little bit, right? So everyone's kind of doing their own thing. But here, everybody was in like this 6-block radius for the entire time. But it was a lot of fun. I really had a good time.
Yeah, it looked like a good time. I was listening to you recap it today. For those of you guys who don't check out Team Hold, you should. Mike was recapping some of his trip this morning. You said the crossover, that was like their big convention center fan fest type thing.
Yeah, so they did. I assumed it was going to be outside. I don't know why, because it's February in Utah. But I was like, oh yeah, sure. We just like walk down to the arena and everything's going to be outside. And then like we got there and I was like, yeah, of course not. That makes no sense. But yeah, there's like a convention center that's right across the street from the arena, and from like 12 to 8, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they had all these like pop-up things in there. They had players doing interviews and signing autographs. There were like a bunch of courts and like shooting contests and stuff like that. Yeah, so even Gary V had his own booth, which was, I thought that was kind of funny that there was like no Top Shot booth, there was no NBA NFT booth. But Gary V just had his own.
The V friends are out here grinding,
Yeah, it's like we won't have like I gotta give Dustin credit for this joke. It's like, yeah, we're not gonna have like the basketball product here, but can I introduce you in some plushy V friends or something like they have their own table. So it's pretty.
What was the booth for V friends, or was it for something else?
I honestly don't even know, because the line was like 75 deep, because we were like, oh, we should just like record this interaction because it'd be funny. And I was like, I'm not waiting in line an hour for that. Like it's not plus EV. But yeah, so I don't even know what the hell he was promoting while he was out there.
Yeah, I think I saw a photo, where I saw him there, and I mean, shout out to Gary V, just continuing to pound the pavement and get out there in front of the people. Who were you starstruck by anyone? Did you like bump into someone or walk by someone? You're like, holy shit, that's whoever.
Besides the no dunks guys, I'll always be starstruck by them when I see them. On Saturday, we kind of had this freak weird thing happen where we had a connection that just got us into the hotel where the players are all staying, and there's like pretty intense security. So they felt pretty comfortable of like just being out in the lobby. So we were like sitting next to Shams for like 45 minutes. Like we saw Steven Adams. We got a drink next to him and Mike Miller. Grant Williams had just won his election for the new league VP, and he was just like dapping everybody up after his
man of the people.
And the people, yeah. SGA. I would pray. Oh, Josh Giddey came out there with he had a vibe. I don't know if you guys have a photo, saw it, but he was in like this pink. He had real Timothée Chalamet vibes. Like he had this.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that. I also saw SGA in his like fur coat. The photos of him in that thing.
Yeah, it was like a fur coat and an undershirt. It was great. And then the funniest thing that happened. So there's only one exit of the hotel. So all the players are going out the same way. Yeah. Oh, is this Giddey? No, this. I want to get. No, it was an all pink everything.
Oh, this was another one. Oh, this is
he was just vibing all week.
He really was. I mean, I was ready to give him an MVP votes when I saw that. That was incredible. But yeah, so there was only one exit, and when we were getting ready to head to the Saturday night events, we have to walk out the same exit the players walk out. And there's like all these barricades with like fans screaming at everybody that goes out to get an autograph. So we walked out with Gary Payton, like Hall of Famer Gary Payton, whoever's like, Gary, like going to his SUV. And then it's just Dustin and I scrolling right behind him. Like, what's up, guys? Good to see everybody.
That's incredible.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was a really fun, because we expected to be around people like during the events and stuff, but it was just like a random thing where we got a drink in the hotel lobby where everybody was staying. So it was pretty funny.
When you were saying how like the Salt Lake vibes would be different from, Vegas or in LA where everything's spread out, it always makes me think, Mike, of the like when all the like comedians and actors go out to the Sundance Festival and it's everyone's chance to wear their big puffy jackets and everyone's just like hanging out within like a 1 mile square radius of each other the entire week.
There was a lot of that. There was a lot of puffy jackets. Jackets. Oh, and then they'll go the other way too. There's a lot of dudes just in jerseys.
Okay.
Where I was like, all right, guys, like, I mean, you put a jacket on, it's cold. It's okay.
Yeah, it's not a contest.
Yeah. No one wins anything here.
I think
I feel like that's one of those things that's always funny is like guys feeling like it's badass to not wear a normal amount of outerwear. Like, no, I'm not cold.
It's definitely a hardo contest at sporting events.
Yeah.
I think I did see one of Jack's like Instagram stories, and there was like a dude in just like shorts, t-shirt, and flip flops, just like walking up to something.
And there were lines everywhere too. So it's not like it's a quick in and out. Like you had to stay outside for like a good 25, 30 minutes before you got in anywhere. But he was funny. Like I think everybody anticipated there not being like a nightlife there. I mean, it's like still a city with a downtown that's hosting a major thing.
That closes at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. No, they were even like keeping everything open till 1. They were. So they adjusted all of their stuff.
1 a.m.
Wait, listen, Clay, are you fighting Utah? What's going on?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Clay hosts one event in Nashville, and he's like, "Your bars aren't open till 5 a.m. I'm not interested."
Facts. That was a stipulation. It was like legal mobile sports betting, and we don't close down at 1 a.m.
Yeah. Well, I went in there assuming it was closing at 11. So when they said 1, it felt like 4. I was like, "Oh hell yeah!"
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's like they get on the mic and they say, "But still leave a little room for the Holy Ghost out there with whoever you're dancing with." What was is it a lot? Was it a lot of locals, basketball fans, or are there just people traveling? I'm curious, like, who is the kind of person who flies out to Salt Lake City for the All-Star game?
I think it was, I think the people going to like the crossover event stuff were a lot of locals and then probably like families that traveled. But it seemed like the games themselves, it was a lot of people that had like flown in, or like the events themselves. It seemed like a lot of out of towners. But there was still like a good mix because the Utah fans were losing their shit every time like Lauri Markkanen did anything. And then on Saturday during the skills contest, they had like Utah had their own squad in the skills contest, so they were losing their mind. They're big fans of Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and Kyrie Irving. There was a big Kyrie contingency in Utah.
Interesting.
I feel like that's not shocking to me now that I think about it. Okay.
But no, it seemed like there was a kind of a good mix. There was a good mix of people. Definitely a lot of people that traveled in. You could feel it at the airport.
And what was the scene like for the Saturday night, all the competition? Because I will tell you, I barely follow the NBA, and yet I felt like I did back in the mid 90s when I would go over to my grandma's to watch the dunk contest because we didn't have cable and she did. And when I saw Twitter blowing up about Mac McClung, and I frantically turned it over to the dunk contest, and I hadn't felt that way watching a dunk contest in probably since the Vince Carter one. It was a very fun time. Was that reflected in the stadium?
Yeah. So especially because we were there for the first two events, right? It's just because it all runs together, and the skills contest sucked. There was no, and the No Dunks guys recapped this on Monday, but there was a part that you couldn't see on TV, but in between the event, they'd have these kids show you what the event was. They'd kind of demonstrate it as they were letting the fans know.
The Survivor crew where they show you the challenge and they have them run through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the kids hit more shots than the rookies did. These are 10, 12-year-olds hit a corner
Tough
three.
look.
Yeah, it was the skills challenge sucked. And the 3-point contest was fun, but there still wasn't a ton of energy around it. And then Jericho Sims dunks, Kenyon Martin dunks, Trey Murphy throws it down. There becomes a little bit more hype. That first Mac McClung dunk, the entire night shifted. The vibes are crazy in there after that. And it felt like you were seeing something cool because there's a lot of hype around Mac McClung. But I mean, you're all right, dude, it's a G Leaguer, whatever, Yeah,
I feel like you were pretty skeptical going into it, Mike, or at least in the content realm. It was a nice little, I don't know how much of a bit that was versus personal feelings. I really enjoyed the man on the street content, but it felt like you're kind of leading the questioning there of, in fact, everyone only was aware of Mac McClung, which is fair.
Listen, I think I don't want to take anything away from Mac McClung as a dunker. But if that's what we're doing, let's just get the best dunkers and don't even call it an NBA contest. He's not in the NBA.
Well, technically he was by the time of the dunk contest.
Yeah, because Adam Silver was wow, this is a huge L for us if he's not in the NBA. So Philly, send your worst
Philly,
guy
that two-way.
Yeah, and now Mac McClung probably stays up there because of that money, baby. Philly's just going to sell.
They're going to sell tickets for him. Yeah, facts. Yeah.
So that was the only thing. I was let's just get some guys, let's make it like American Idol. We'll just go from park to park throughout the country and get the 10 best guys, and we'll do that if nobody in the NBA actually wants to do it. But
I think it'd be fun to have it be a Joe's versus pros type of thing or something.
Oh, yeah.
And have it be almost team based or something like that. And you get the Mac McClung, those guys, and I feel like there just have to be ways. I don't think that they're tapping into enough the incentivization of just pure ego that these players have, where it's if it's just you versus Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon, or whatever, it's okay, yeah, sure, I'm going to lose to Zach LaVine, whatever, I don't care. But if it's hey, you might lose to this guy who's not even in the NBA, and that'd be really embarrassing for you.
Right.
I feel like you could figure out something there.
I totally agree. I mean, because it was pretty cool. Going McClung versus Trey Murphy was awesome. Those guys that was so much fun. And I feel like it's the first time we've had that in a few years. I agree, though. Let's I don't know. John Morant should have to do it next year,
Yeah, I mean, how about John Morant versus Mac McClung? The ratings for that would just be so fucking fun.
Oh, yeah.
Zion, the three of them? Oh, my God. That'd be...
Can Zion even
fun.
dunk anymore? Last time you told me he was 300 pounds. Is he?
He's a big layup guy.
I don't think he has legs anymore. I think he's in a wheelchair now. I'm not positive.
Yeah, Mike. What your little Mike? Did you get upstaged by your little Mike at? I keep hearing all these references to it.
So what's so funny, man? I feel like all the content I see, people use those mics, and then
TikTok
I used
mic.
it. Yeah, and I used it, and everybody was like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" I was like, "What?" I thought everyone was I specifically got that one instead of a regular sized one. Yeah, little Mike Crush though is really good. Their best.
Well, you know what you need to do next year? You need to get a comically oversized mic, just ginormous. I mean, because the dunk contest stuff that had been even for ages that when they were how do we get LeBron to do it? I mean, it still blows my mind that you're telling me there's not a sponsor that could come up and put up a $2 million prize pool for the winner of the dunk contest. And then some of these guys would be more incentivized. It's weird to me that they can't crack that code.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there was a bunch of tweets going around about it today. I think Stephen A. Smith said something about like LeBron being the one that ruined it. But he he was like the first one. He was the first one that was like, nah, I'm good. And then after that, everyone was like, oh, we don't have to do it. Like, this isn't like the pathway forward.
You see, Vince Carter came out and said that there was like a proposal like early, but like I guess like right after LeBron denied the first time or around that timing or whatever. But it was like him, LeBron, or like Kobe and like one other like prolific star at the time, and they were all like going to get paid like $1 million, and there was gonna be like and LeBron was the one that kind of, as I understood it, like kind of pulled out or wasn't committal to it, which is tough. I mean, it would have been a lot of fun. To see LeBron in one.
I think you're right. Some sponsor just pony something up, or like create a wing in the Hall of Fame. Like you win the dunk contest, you're in the Hall of Fame. I don't know, do something to get people to be down for it.
How loud does it get like after one of those sick dunks? Is it like you're in the Garden playoff game level loud, or it's more just like what's the decibel levels we're talking?
I don't know if it was how sick the dunk was or how white Utah is, but they went nuts when McClung threw that down. They went absolutely insane. And I got sucked right in, because what was so cool about a lot of the dunks with Trey Murphy too is that you see it happen in real time. And you're like, wow, that was impressive. And then they give you a slow-mo and you're like, oh, he also tapped the ball against the glass and then threw it in. So like every single one, it felt like you learned something else. So there was this initial wave and then a second wave of, so the excitement was like, it was good. It was really loud. Like it did feel playoff level in there.
Here's the real question. Was it a 540 or not?
No, I don't think so. It was like a little less than a 540. But then because I saw that going around too, and they were like, "Well, I forget who it was. It was like, well, 360s aren't 360s then." I was like,
yeah, well, that is kind of the argument. Like, I'm pro. I think it's 540 because technically, sure, he dunked it when he was 360 degrees of revolution around, but he lands a 540. So it's like, I don't know. Does this, if you apply the snowboarding metrics, the X Games metrics to it, I think it's a 540.
Yeah, I just love the idea of that. Like, what? So if it's a 510, how does that change anything?
Yeah, right.
He still
wins. That's where the other argument comes into play for me. Is like, well, yeah, if that's a 360, then everything else is a fucking 180. Like, there's no way to get like, cool. Way to go negative 90 now. It's a regular dunk. Like, what the fuck?
Right.
The other thing that McClung had going for him big time in that kills other dunk contests are the missed dunks.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't see the first round of his dunks, I don't think, but did he have any misses?
Dude, so that was the thing.
Single time.
McClung didn't miss, Murphy didn't miss, and I mean Jericho Sims didn't miss, but he also didn't do too much.
No, he set the dunk contest back another 5 years.
He did.
Another 50 years.
He was like, "What if I do the same dunk again?" Like, all right, dude, say.
What if I just shove my arm a little deeper in the rim?
Yeah, but only Kenyon Martin Jr. missed.
Yeah, I mean that because I mean everyone remembers like the Birdman dunk contest too, where it's just like, my God, it kills it. So like to have someone, how short a notice? Like how long was Mac McClung booked for that? Did he know about that for a while?
No.
Yeah, no. Well, he was over like a month, right?
Close to it. My sources. I gotta step this source game now. My sources. Yeah, it would have been like a little less than a month for how I understand it to be. Where it was rumored. It was kind of like on the table for a minute, but it wasn't finalized. Until a few weeks ago.
Do you guys?
Yeah, they did take forever to announce who was going to be doing it.
Do you guys remember when we were at Summer League? What would it have been 2 years ago with all the club people? And Mac McClung was playing. Warriors. I think he was on the Warriors at the time. And we went in that auxiliary gym, and they looked like a high school team because it's just a bunch of like white dudes. And so I was like, I recognize this dude from somewhere. It was from an auxiliary Summer League gym.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought some of the discourse around, like, it was really interesting because, like, I think if you've been on Instagram over the last 5+ years or so, like Mac McClung was all over, especially overtime basketball's Instagram for years, and he was on. Everyone thought he was gonna be a way better college player than he was because he had the game. He was an incredible dunker, and he went to Georgetown, didn't quite fall into grips there, and then went to Texas Tech, and then just he made it to the league, but that was about it. It's like a pretty normal story from a college perspective, but him coming back on the radar and then everyone being like, we never heard of this guy before. It was like, well, where have you been? Like, if you're a basketball fan, or you've been on the internet or no? Like, you've been under, I mean, he was kind of out there if you were in that world of especially YouTube high school basketball, highlights or that kind of shit.
My favorite thing was and I'm sure you saw it on the broadcast too. They were interviewing him after, and they're like, "So you're going to defend your title next year?" I was like, "Yeah."
What else is going on?
He made his salary that night. Like,
No,
yes,
I'm really busy.
Yeah,
he's like,
from the winnings alone. Not even the Puma contract. And that was smart by Puma, man. They swooped in like the day before and inked the deal, so he was wearing Pumas in all of the shots and all of it. That was brilliant on their part.
Yeah. We kept joking. He secured a handful of bags that weekend.
Yeah.
This would normally be, I think, a question Jack would love to answer. But Andy, what would you do if you were Mac McClung for this next year? Say your 10-day contract or whatever phases out. Like, how would you capitalize? How would you strike while the iron's hot on this newfound celebrity?
So hear me out. This new interesting technology that not many people have heard of, NFTs. No.
Boo. No.
Honestly, I have no idea. I think probably you try to get like a Netflix reality TV show or something.
Yeah.
Just like some
documentary.
type of stupid, but like some sort of reality thing where it's like white, like some shitty play on like white men can't jump, like a slam dunk like sports contest thing or something, or like I don't know, like because he's obviously not a good enough player to be in the NBA, but he does have like this really interesting and weird skill set, and so it's probably like some version of TikTok content plus trying to leverage that into being like a reality TV person for like a more competitive like sports based thing.
That's what I was going to say. Because one of the street ball hoop stuff is definitely a big genre on TikTok. And like, if he did some like, I don't know, 20 state tour, and maybe he did like some bit of like the Uncle Drew thing where he kind of like sandbag, like I'm just this nerdy looking white dude. And then I'm throwing down like dunks in these games. Like, I feel like if he had a crew follow him around and everyone's like looking around, like this guy just did this. And with his look, it would not be hard for him to disguise himself and blend in or
show
not
up
look
as an accountant or something. Like
exactly.
I think
NBA intern. It'd be so good.
What if he wears like I want him to wear Vineyard Vines outfits like to the basketball court, just like a pink scarf like wrapped around his head and then just throw down 360s.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he looks like he could be in the Book of Mormon. Like the Broadway production. Like
it's so fitting to be in Utah.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think him and Jimmer Fredette should do the script.
This is scripted from years ago, man. They found out Salt Lake City AllStar Weekend 2023.
I think him and Jimmer Fredette should have like a 2-man show out and like with the Shanghai Sharks. Just both of them get like $10 million a year to play overseas. I think that's
bring in Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
really do a bit. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's his move. He just stays out in Salt Lake City. He's like, I will never be more famous in a singular city than I am right now in Salt Lake. I am just gonna, hang around the BYU campus, see what Cougars, literal and figurative, are interested in me, and just ride it out.
You see how he did monetize like the window immediately after? It was so brilliant. He put up a promo code for his jumping program to like increase your vertical immediately on his Instagram. Sharp. Now he needs branded like ankle weights. Like he's got it. That's what we need. Build it all.
What are any other takes from Saturday night, or what about the main event on Sunday?
Well, I realized I want to make sure I get this out. I forgot about Friday night. So Friday night we somehow got into the DraftKings party. We went to the draft, sponsored by Dollar Shave Club. So there's probably like it's mostly like industry people. There's probably like 100 or so. They had Fat Joe. Fat Joe did a set, and
nice.
Fat Joe was one of the most incredible performances because he did a couple of his songs. Then he did 5 minutes of stand up, what can only be described as stand up. It was like a tight 5. He had, and like, kudos to him. He got some laughs out of the crowd. It was pretty solid. Then he started doing other people's songs, which I thought was an incredible flex. Like, not even ones that he was featured on. It turned into just kind of like a live cover band. And then he ends the show by saying, well, you, Tom, secured the bag. And then just walked off. I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, he basically should have just had like a Dollar Shave Club representative come out and give him like an actual bag filled with, $20,000 or whatever he got for that.
Give him a beard lineup on stage. That would be good marketing.
Yeah. Oh, it was so good. But Sunday was fun too. The All-Star game itself. I learned from a lot of people that a lot of like the media come in for like Thursday and leave before the game. Like they fly out on Sunday. They don't stay for the game.
It's like Super Bowl.
Yeah, it wasn't too it was a little quieter for the game itself. I think the crowd is pretty pumped when Donovan Mitchell get hot. As a Celtics fan, it was pretty dope to see the Tatum Brown, like they just went 1-on-1 for like 10 minutes. And that was really fun to watch. And Dame, I didn't realize that I would like watching Dame so much, but Dame in person is pretty fun. Like he's very impressive.
Did you see that video?
He's a showman too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see the video of his jump shot going around and talking about like how like it's like that gap between his like the fingertips and the ball, and that is like the most unusual like shooting form that I've seen in terms of like the grip, following the basketball. But it's working for him, man. He's getting some tight spin on his shot. That was wild. I never seen a video breaking that down before.
I had never seen it either, and it really does just like rest on his palm for so long. I was very surprised. Yeah,
he like almost like rocks it back. So there's like, and then he gets like more of a flick on it like that. But yeah, shout out Dame winning the 3-point contest. I saw somebody bet the trifecta, which was like Dame to win the 3-point contest, Mac McClung to win the dunk contest, and Tatum to be the MVP of the All-Star game. It was pretty solid, and I was pretty salty that I did not get plus 450 down on Mac to win the dunk contest because I was already in North Carolina could get a bet down. Before all the odds changed, and then he came out with that video. It was like, I got 2 dunks never been done before, and boom, every book changed it up. Yeah, literally.
I know. It was pretty cool though. I will say I hope to do something like that again. It was a really good time, and shout out So Rare too for making that happen. And it was cool to see them have a presence there. Like they partnered up with a couple of 2K influencers that we met. Which I didn't know that was a thing, but they were there. And then this dude, Bryson, who's pretty big into Web3 gaming, he was there and he was doing a lot of stuff for them as well. So it was just cool seeing them have a presence. And I know I said this morning, and I know we usually don't talk about Top Shot on Club Top Shot, but it was pretty weird that they weren't there at all. Like the crossover, like I was saying, Gary Vee had a table, like everybody had a table, and it's not like it's crazy money to get one of those tables. And for this to be, I don't know, like it's Comic-Con, right? Like that's just Comic-Con for basketball. And for that,
it's low hanging fruit. I mean, the easiest thing you can do is book a little space and have a booth and give out some like plush little basketball Nerf toys and like call it a day.
Yeah, I know. That's truly like they didn't have to just have a TV behind you. Just play in the moments. QR code, sign them up, whatever, and that's. They don't even have to sign them up, but just at least pretend like you're a part of the conversation. It was just weird. It was really weird.
It's not like they haven't been activated. They've been all over the place. I saw a tweet about like all these events they've been at recently, doing stuff. Like it was weird to me that AllStar was not included on that. I actually thought they would have been at AllStar considering I just saw it was like 2 days ago. I saw a tweet about like we were in Paris and somewhere else, and the other NBA thing or whatever.
Yeah, they did the tour, right? They did the tour, which I think is like for current users, right? So they went out to Portland, they went to Miami, Toronto, and then in Paris, which is great. Like I don't want to dunk on them for that. I know, Roham was there, and I believe Meg from Top Shot, Meg Patton was there, and then it was just like the people who spent $30,000 on those All-Star VIP things. They were there, and that was it. Though.
There is a big lake there. Helicoptered in. It's a true airdrop.
for the audio listeners, Colin says no place to dock Roham's yacht in a landlocked state. So any other did you do any like were there specific like So Rare stuff that you guys were doing there, or was it more just kind of like an exposure thing for them?
More of an exposure, and then what we were doing, they had specific contests on Saturday. So they had this Saturday contest where you could pick anybody from if you owned like the rookies who were participating in the skills challenge, anybody that was participating in the skills challenge, dunk contest, or 3-point contest, you could like create a lineup with them, and they like assigned points or whatever. So what we did is we built our lineup within the stadium. Like while we were there, and then just shared that. So we did that for Saturday and for Sunday, which was fun. Between that and like the Underdog pickup, I didn't expect to get like very invested in the Underdog pickups at the All-Star game, but that was so fun. So the combination of the So Rare sweat and the Underdog sweat was a pretty good time. But that was really it. They just kind of wanted us out and about, and they had a little bit more of a presence like at media day with the players and stuff like that. I know they were around there. They just kind of wanted us messing around.
That's awesome. Well, I know you got to get running here, but I just wanted to get a little dispatch from your trip, so I appreciate you swinging by.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's good to be back on. And as I said before the show started, love the 4:30 start time. Keep it up.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Us
it's
too.
the early bird special. We'll all be in bed by 5:45.
Oh,
It'll be
beautiful.
great. And as always, if you guys are interested in hearing more about Mike's trip to Salt Lake, check out this morning's Team Hold episode. They got the podcast feed. They got the YouTube, which I linked to in the show notes down below. Anything else coming up on your schedule for this week, Mike?
Just the morning show Monday through Friday at 9, and then there's a bunch of other shit going on, but there's no need to plug it up. Just come hang out if you're into it.
Come hang out. Team Hold, always there for you in the mornings. Mike, have a good one, man.
Thanks. Later, guys.
See ya.
And Clay, I assume it didn't work out, but you have a buddy who has been following Mac McClung. Was that what you were saying?
Yeah, actually, he couldn't join today because his post NBA schedule has been pretty crazy after Mac winning the dunk contest. But yeah, it's a documentary from the G League I think it's called The Break, and there's about 5 episodes live on YouTube right now. Shaq does the voiceover, which is pretty sick. So it's like really soothing audio experience as well, and the visuals are dope. So it's one of my really close friends from UNC. His production company got hired to follow 3 G League players all season long, and Mac McClung was one of them. So they follow him starting back when he talks about his decision to turn down multi-million-dollar offers to go play overseas to try to still make it in the NBA. And now it's a pretty insane storyline with the culmination this past weekend and AllStar Game weekend. So yeah, he was out there following the whole time, filming. So that should all come out whenever they drop the next episode in a few weeks' time. But pretty sick, like a pretty incredible storyline. Got to spend a lot of time, I think, with his parents and just get more backstory this weekend on his journey and experience. But hard to write a better script for a documentary than kind of one unfolding for them. So yeah, pretty stoked. Check out The Break on YouTube. It's a good, short 12-minute episodes, really fun to watch. I think Norris Cole, he used to play on the Heat, is another player that they're following, and I'm blanking on the other guy who's a part of G League Ignite, which is it's a G League team that's not affiliated with any other true NBA team. Like Mac was on the Delaware Blue Coats, which was the Philly G League affiliate for a while until he got the 2-way deal.
And there were all the cool split screen stuff of Shaq's reaction to McClung's dunks and stuff.
Yeah.
If he's doing the voiceover, it feels like there's some
perfect.
Really cool tie-in with that stuff.
Yeah, I saw a really cool video. So it seems like Shaq has a little bit of I don't know how personal of a connection. I don't know how much time he's actually spent with Mac beforehand, but he was somebody who was clued into some of his skills and stuff. Where if you listen to the broadcast, I think Kenny in particular was kind of ragging on Mac originally. Then once Mac did the tap off the backboard, dunking over those guys, he won him over. It was cool to see.
Yeah. Andy, the So Rare stuff from Mike, are you still in those streets, still setting your lineups?
Yeah, actually, that reminds me, I need to set mine for this upcoming week. But yeah, I'm still doing it. I'm slightly less involved right now. I just honestly am having more fun playing Underdog than doing the So Rare stuff. And so I only have so much time to really commit to it. I've been starting my best ball drafts. I'm getting the cardio club going early this year. So I was actually in a draft with Justin this morning, which was fun. So shout out to Justin. But yeah, so mostly just spending more time on Underdog, but I'll still set my lineups and pay attention. And I mean, some of their auctions that have happened have been crazy amounts. So it seems like they're doing well. I just don't have the time or energy to commit to really getting in the weeds and doing everything.
Yeah, no, that makes it. That's what was intimidating about it to me, just kind of getting fully in the weeds on it, but does seem like a cool thing. I did just also see, we're starting to see more games like that. DraftKings just announced they're going to have their Rainmakers for PGA, which people seem excited about. So it'll be interesting to see if more people continue to kind of get in the space with the fantasy NFT side of things. I
might dip my toes in that, to be honest. I've low-key been enjoying some golf DFS stuff, and we had some fun, bet to earn tournaments around it too. So and the new Netflix show actually low-key kind of good, full swing.
So I've been crushing Netflix reality TV.
Yeah.
4 more episodes of The Perfect Match just came out today. So tonight when Allie gets home from dinner, we're gonna fucking crush The Perfect Match. It's gonna be awesome. We just watched The Mole, which was okay at best, but it was entertaining. But The Full Swing is definitely on my list of things to watch. But I actually, while there have been no NBA games for a week, I had I was doing like some NFL drafts, but like the draft rooms aren't filling up that fast yet for the big board.
2 hours a day.
And the drafts are long as fuck too. 20 rounds, like they're really long drafts. And so
my
I did
dumbass
some
last
golf
night at the
drafts.
airport bar decided to get in one, and then it wasn't filling up. I got distracted, and then I like land, and I have like a notification from Underdog, and like the draft was completed. Like at some point, I just got autoed the whole time.
That's so interesting, because the contest is at 25% full, so it must be maybe more people doing slow drafts. Is everyone just jumping?
It's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if so, the mini one just like does not fill. I mean, it obviously it does. But like every time I'm like, because I think it's a 2 draft limit per person for that one, and I've already done 1. So I was like, all right, let me just like do my second one. And every time I'm going to do a draft, I just like go to both, and whichever one fills first, I'll do. And I just always end up doing the regular draft.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it must be a lot of slow drafts. I mean, I would say that I've never waited more than like 15 minutes, but normally when I'm going to do one, it's because I have like an explicit period of time where I have the time to do it. And like, I get pretty distracted pretty easily. And so just like knowing myself, if I'm the third person who enters the lobby, like I'm going to forget about the draft and not do it. And so I'm better off just leaving.
I will I'll mention, so if you're in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, there's a roles channel, and there's a Best Ballers role and a Badge Bros role. And if you're in the Badge Bros channel or in the Best Ball one, and you just want to tag that, anyone who's opted into that, they use that to try to fill drafts. So if you guys are trying to fill a big board, I know like during cardio club season, everyone's like, dude, I've been on the Stairmaster for 14 minutes. Will you please join these drafts? But that's a good way to get there. And then obviously I'll be doing a ton of big boards on streams. And so those will fill. I don't know if we might be doing one tomorrow on ship chasing, but yeah, a few ways to round up some enthusiasm.
Tag the real
drafting.
sickos.
Yeah. Andy, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Blur and Opensea. I mean, this is the first time I can remember like Opensea actually reacting to something another marketplace did, where forever it just felt like we're bigger than this. We don't have to do anything. You guys are going to keep coming back because you have no other choice. Did that raise your eyebrows when they turned off fees here, at least temporarily?
Yeah, I was pretty shocked. I think it kind of made sense that they had to. Like, I don't know. I don't think that Opensea is just going to like go down without a fight, so to speak. And so I'm curious to see what they do. I have gotten some the beta access to Gem V2, which I was messing around with, and it's really nice. I think people like it, and I think it's just generally good to kind of have competition there. And I mean, like, to be honest, it's just not really a contest right now between Opensea and Blur. And so I think like what I was surprised by is I feel like Opensea kind of got to this point where they had to make the decision of whether or not they were going to fight for the market share that is like the degen, PFP, flipper, whatever kind of thing. And it seemed like maybe they weren't going to. And now they basically have been like, yeah, we are. We do want that market share, and we're going to fight for it. And so that'll be interesting to see. I think without token incentives, it's just going to be really hard for Opensea to convince anyone to use something else, or to not use Blur, I should say. But maybe that'll change. I think like all things considered, I think that Blur had to do the token stuff in order to actually like leech actual value from Opensea. But now what Opensea does have is they still have not released a token. Yeah. And so like they do still have that. And so I think from the conversations that I've had with people, they don't want to release a token. But I think more so they don't want to lose. Yeah. And so they'll do what they have to do. And so I think that like they kind of, while in a less advantageous position right now, they do still have an ace up their sleeve, so to speak. And so I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what the next couple of months hold. And also, like, so much of this volume right now is all just like garbage. It's not real. It's just people farming Blur tokens.
I was just going to ask you that because I saw this play out a little bit with Looks Rare, right? Where they had all that volume, all the wash trading, people farming the rewards, and then things really petered out over time. Ryan asking, why is Blur worth anything? Do you think they have more staying power than these other OpenSea competitors?
I do, just because I think they're really good. Like, they're just really good at making software, and like they clearly are just like executing on a level that is not normal. I've heard rumors that everyone who works at the company all lives in the same apartment. I don't know whether or not that's true, but like they're just really intense. Like,
Well, last time that happened, that worked out very well.
yeah.
Are they in the Bahamas too, or
No, I think they're in SF. But yeah, I think they're just like really intense, and they really care. They really want to win, and they're really good at what they do. And so I think that like they're just kind of the most competent team that can give Opensea a run for their money.
Have you been messing around with any farming over there, or too much effort?
A little bit here and there, just because it's like kind of fun. I don't think that there's a ton of alpha to be had right now in like farming Blur. Like, everyone knows the alpha was to be farming Blur 3 months ago, not right now.
Yeah.
So hard to say. I think probably if you're like doing it like a pro, like you're taking it very seriously, you'll make money from it. But if you're just like a casual person who's like, oh, let me put in some bids and let me farm some Blur, you're probably going to have a bad time.
What are the other things do you think that would be advantages from them outside of the token incentivization? Or do they win over OpenSea in other ways? UI, overall experience, do you think?
I think the biggest thing there has been their UI is like really fast. Like OpenSea's UI has been pretty slow for a long time. Yeah. Like, to be honest, I don't really love Blur's UI in general. Like, it's not the style that appeals to me, and not that OpenSea necessarily is either. I think there's probably I think my favorite marketplace UI that exists right now is like Foundation, but it's just not made for that type of transacting. And so like I don't think that people are just like, oh wow, this is like the perfect UI. It's really great. But I think it's really just like the speed, and they had a bunch of tools at the start, but then I think they just did such a good job gamifying everything. Variant, the crypto VC firm, they put out an article today talking about like the Blur token airdrop and all of that, and I thought they did a really good job kind of laying out all of the different like levels of incentives and why it was done really well and really smart. I think that's like a good piece to read to kind of get some insight on stuff too.
Nice. Clay, have you messed around on the Blur marketplace at all?
I haven't. I haven't been really trading anything, so I haven't had a whole lot of time. I am interested just from obviously the macro level and marketplaces being, an important component to everything. But yeah, I mean, even with like looks, like one thing I think OpenSea has going for it is it's very natural for me, at least behaviorally, to like go and type in, OPENSEA in my URL as opposed to any other thing. And even when like looks was like, I just want to check on the, farming and staking, that situation there, like, yeah, it's just a little different. So I have not, but I'm excited to. I'm just kind of been, marketplaces have not been my main point of focus at current moment.
I mean, that's the challenge for all of it, right? In all of the sites that have come up where it is hard to reflexively get out of the habit, and they get, like Andy said, they get the degens, right? Because there's rewards and it's gamified, but the casual user, it's still like, they don't necessarily feel like to break someone's pattern of behavior is pretty tough.
Yeah, but we've seen it happen time and time again. You always like the cliche, like Blockbuster, like Netflix example, right? Like, there's companies that people thought would never be like removed from the top peg of even how people interacted from a behavioral standpoint, and then variety of reasons can dictate that. So who knows? I mean, like, we might not be using OpenSea primarily in a number of time. I think there's just like, I'm kind of excited. I got my popcorn. I'm just kind of like sitting back and seeing how things unfold, and I mean, the one thing I will say is like I am really fascinated in the whole like royalty conversation from like a creator standpoint, as it relates to more specifically like the art drops, and like I think I've seen some good chatter on Twitter about this kind of fork in the road, right? Where are you creating a platform designed to help like the artists, creators, or are you creating a platform that's designed to help the traders and the buyers? And those are, two things that can coexist, but there's different incentives and perspective and reasonings for how that should work and how that plays out. But I mean, to me, the one of the best premises of the space of Web3 and NFTs in particular, as it relates to selling collectibles, digital collectibles, is the aspect that you have ongoing royalties. That's the thing that when we talk to companies that are interested in like Web3, especially if they sell like goods or services or whatever it might be, the idea that they could be a part of any secondary sales and receive additional revenue from that is, I think, something that really is impactful for the space growing as a whole at large. But it gets a little lost in the nuance when it's like more micro specific to like what we're talking about when it comes to like blur trading and that kind of stuff, right? But I'm sure Andy, you probably got some perspective there too from the stuff that we're working on with like Escher and everything. And I'm thinking about this from like our standpoint. We have like our whole like Degen Sports Collective, which is like our art kind of gallery focused on sports that we're rolling out and focusing on like highlighting sports artists and stuff. So we're thinking about it from a whole lot of angles. That's not just Knights of Degen original collection of 8,800 AFTs specific.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's like a good point, Clay, and I think it's something it's been like pretty interestingly kind of lost in the chaos of this conversation, and like shockingly, Twitter is not a great place for nuance. I think a lot of the outrage around royalties is artists and creators who are like, what the fuck? I don't think really any reason that people have wanted to skirt royalties is because of artists and creators. And I don't think people really have shown very much interest in skirting the royalties of artists and creators. It's mostly the large PFPs and all of that. And up until now, we've just seen them all transact on the same marketplace where like, that's just how it is. And it's just easier to make rules for everyone. And the PFPs and all of that do way more volume. And so it's what people care about. And that's something that like, one of the reasons why I'm excited about Escher is, we're just kind of saying like, we're just not going to care about the PFP side of things.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to honor artists and artist royalties and their desires there. And like, I'm confident that, long-term, the users who like actually care about artwork and care about supporting these people are going to want to come and support these different marketplaces. And yeah, I think like that, like general conversation, it just gets lost in the weeds and like, it makes it sound like everyone who's building NFT stuff like doesn't want to. Basically there's like kind of two sides of it where it's like if you're like, oh, royalties are going to zero, everyone's like, well, then why do you hate artists? And it's like, no, like it's not the same conversation. It's like you cannot enforce them. And so for the stuff that's really high volume where it doesn't make sense to charge 7.5% per trade, they're probably going to zero. But like there's still a lot of people I know who like when I do a private sale with someone, we talk to each other and we're like, all right, let's honor the royalties and send it to the artist. And like those two things can still exist in the same world. And right now it's just like the conversation feels like that they can't. Right. And I think that'll change over time. And that's like one of the things that we're really going to try to like narrow in on and explain with what we're doing at Escher is that like we're going to try to make some tools too for artists who want to reward people who do honor royalties and try to create more like carrots as opposed to just like trying to punish people who don't or something, but more ways to incentivize, like make it easy to just like make an allow list of people who have only ever sold your artwork with royalties honored and different things like that.
I wonder, I'm sure people have thought about this and I'm not smart enough to crack the code, but thinking if there's like a curved thing where royalties start and then based after X amount of transactions or whatever, then it like depletes to where once something's transacted nonstop, that it's just like not reaping in royalties.
Yeah, there have definitely been some like ideas around that kind of stuff. It starts to get pretty complicated pretty fast, honestly. And it's like the same thing where it's kind of hard to enforce.
Yeah.
There's potentially like some interesting kind of stuff around like almost more like transfer fee things as opposed to like pure just royalties where it's like, hey, we're going to, every transfer for the first however many transfers, we're going to charge this percentage of the mint cost or whatever. Or there's like some interesting ideas around like dynamic royalties where you only pay a royalty if you sell it for more than you bought it for, which is interesting, but a lot of this stuff can be gamed. It's pretty imperfect. And I think like I think the better way to try to go about like solving a lot of this stuff is more so, for the traditional artist who just wants to like have royalties, then like find collectors who are going to honor your royalties. And like, if you don't do that, like sometimes people won't, and that sucks, but find better ways to incentivize people who are collecting your work to want to honor your royalties. And then for, other stuff, you can start to get experimental, and maybe royalties isn't the only way to lock in value, whether it's providing like liquidity to like market make for collections. There's been some conversations kicking up again about harbinger taxes, which I don't need to get into the weeds on how those work. But it's essentially the like really, really fast version of what a harbinger tax is. And it'll never work at scale because it's too confusing for the average person. But if you own an NFT, you can basically set what your valuation of it is. And that's kind of like your buy it now price. And when you have that valuation set, you're basically paying a small tax based on whatever your valuation is. And so say there's like a 10% per year tax that basically whoever owns this thing, whatever they're valuing it at, that tax is paid out to the artist. It doesn't necessarily work super well for just like pure artwork. Because like, what if I just want to own this thing for the next 100 years and I just bought it and I'm a collector? But it works better for stuff that has like actual real life utility, kind of like for like a land tax or something. If you had significantly more like real world application kind of things, or like a gaming asset where you're like, I actually utilize this asset and I'm comfortable like setting an actual fair market price for it and paying taxes on it long term. But there's different things that people can experiment with. But
that's
I think
really
we'll see a lot of evolution.
Yeah, that's like really interesting when you think about like true metaverse spaces, right? And like how if a company organization that owns metaverse space, let's say they sell land in that metaverse space, right, as an NFT, and like that's a pretty interesting thought from like well, you could do a lot of things to improve your space, like to add value to, whether that's like digital art that you like want to showcase in that metaverse location or whatever, right? Like theoretically, a lot of the same principles that apply to like you buy a house, you do things to fix up the house, the property value of the house goes up. So then you're like, you could set a mark and say, hey, I think that my metaverse space here is worth X amount. And I can see that tax principle applying in that way. That's an interesting thought. I definitely don't see how it works, like as you said, at scale, like a more overarching.
Yeah, here, I'll share in the chat, because like I said, don't know how to send comments in the main chat for one of you guys to share. But this is like the earliest, one of the earliest kind of like iterations of trying out like a harbinger tax. And it's by this guy, Simon, who's a really, really smart guy. He's generally been a bit of a trailblazer when it comes to like interesting mechanics and stuff with NFTs. And so, we don't have to get into all the weeds right now, but I think it's a good thing to explore and learn about. I think we're going to see, just by force of necessity, artists start to experiment with new things, whether it's bonding curves for their work and different things to try to find new ways to continue their monetization.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because it reminded me, it was a couple years ago, I read this book called Radical Markets. And we had the author, Glenn Wheel, on the podcast, me and Davis and Patrick Laird. We did a book club on it. And that was one of his ideas too. But his was even more, I guess you could say, radical, where it was the same thing for anything you owned, that you set the valuation that you pay taxes. But the rub, where the shoe drops, is anyone can walk around and offer you that price for that thing, and you have to sell it to them, right? Like you can't just say my house is worth $10,000 and I'm going to pay $10,000 in taxes. Well, someone comes around and buys your house for $10,000. So it like creates a way to establish a fair market value. Obviously, no one wants to live in a world where someone can come up and tell you, but you can see how conceptually it actually gets you to set a fair value.
That's cool.
I was also going to pull up this thing as we were talking about royalties, because I did see this tweet the other day just showing the amount of money that these major projects had brought in and with royalties. So for the audio peeps out here, Other Deeds, almost 50 million in royalties year to date. That's in USD. Azuki, 41.5 million. Bored Ape Yacht Club, 32 million. And then my fucking Moonbirds down here, 27 million. I mean, when you see these numbers, Andy, do you think like, okay, this amount of royalties for these kind of projects is ridiculous?
I mean, yeah, I think if any company thought that they could seriously like maintain this as a business model, like, I mean, come on. And so I think it makes sense. And like this is not the same thing as an artist making $50,000 a year on secondary royalties from their artwork. And like the two things are so different. And I think the big thing that you kind of see as a general kind of connector between all these things is almost all of these are like teams of people, and most of them raised venture capital funding, or they were a straight up scam. Like when you look at like Hape Prime and a couple of other ones. And so like, I don't think that it's a great model for VC funded companies. It's just like create hype and volatility and earn royalties. And so I think those people had to,
it works for the top like 5 up there because there's enough going on, enough action, but like you can't predict out, like you literally can't. Like you go when they're raising money, they probably did in the bull market, at that point in time. It was a lot easier then, but these days, like, they're seeing through that shit. Like you can't base predictable revenue for your business off of something as fluctuating as royalty money.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the big thing there. And I think that's where it's really easy to kind of differentiate between the artist and creator and stuff like this. This isn't Xcopy, this isn't Fuwo or any artists who are just amazing artists that have done very well for themselves. This is a very different type of thing. And I personally don't feel very much allegiance to like pay the royalties for my NFT worlds if I owned any or something,
Yeah. I think we'll see a lot more niche and native marketplaces as well. And like, we'll see where we net out. But I just think that things are going to be the NFT space, the Web3 space moves so fucking quickly that like in 6 months, it's like 3 years that we all talk about. But it'll be in 1 year of true calendar time. I think it'll be really fascinating to see where we're at in this conversation. And then as I could see a whole path where we go to a lot like more niche marketplaces depending on what things you're looking to buy, whether that's more like bigger time art or smaller artist or day trading, NFT collections or whatever it may be, right? And then I think a lot of companies will look into like launching their own marketplace and how does that affect things, or maybe we do need more of a central location. So I'm excited. I think there's gonna be a whole lot of change and hopefully like a lot of good like entrepreneurial spirit of like testing things out over the next 2 years, because like it's kind of what the space needs, in my opinion.
Yeah. And seeing this Moonbirds, the final thing, have you guys seen what's going on with Proof canceling their conference? Absolute blood in the streets.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, I get why they had to do it with like lack of interest, but man, I think the thing that got me, other than just staring at the floor price, that I literally fucking contemplated selling the other day. And I was like, you know what? I'll just wait until I get a year out, not take that, short-term capital gains hit. And of course, watching the floor plummet 2.5 ETH since that decision. But I mean, Kevin Rose, like in the comments, like as a reply guy, like having meltdowns with this stuff. Like the whole thing about Kevin Rose was he was supposed to be this like calm, cool, collected dude coming in with all this veteran experience on how to run businesses. And dude's like having meltdowns left and right.
Yeah. I guess the Web3 is not cut out for everyone, right?
How's the nest?
I'm still nested. What is it? I'm not too comfy. It's getting a little chilly in that nest here. Yeah, absolutely brutal.
And
tough, apparently,
man.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I mean, it's the space is funny as well. And I think we're seeing this a lot from just conferences that we're looking at this year. One, like the conference schedule, aside from just the Proof conference as a whole, but the more wider Web3 conferences, like, damn, man, they all got together and decided that March through May is like the prime time this year. Like NFT NYC is happening in April, like Consensus, VCon, NFT Miami, Outer Edge, like it's all happening in like an 8-week span here, like starting in 2 weeks at ETH Denver, which I'm excited for. So the funny part is like, NFT NYC, I'm gonna be really interested to see how many people come through this year, because one of just it's different dates. It starts on like a Wednesday through Friday, and you're trying to make decisions on planning events and stuff based on potential attendance. And one thing you see is like people don't commit early on. People don't buy tickets early on. So one of the things that is interesting about the whole Proof situation is ticket sales weren't what I think they were scoping for or accounting for, but how much does that change? And as you get closer to an event, right, the market upticks. Andy shoots out his meme for 3 days in a row, and everyone feels a whole lot differently about flying out somewhere. The market really seems to impact these events. Like the Web3 Expo in Vegas last fall was not super well attended from what I understand. I got there very late. But I don't know. I mean, they seem to have enough money where it's like they could throw an event and still kind of like do it. I'm sure. I mean, no one wants to be losing money on the event, but depends on how big your slush fund is for those kind of things. So I don't know.
They have like over $100 million, I think. And so I was surprised they didn't just bite the bullet and say, you know what, tickets are $200.
Yeah, right.
Just whatever. Yeah.
Or offset it to be as minimal of a loss as possible. But you got to think that a lot of the reputation hit that they took from this was not worth it compared to like what they would have probably spent otherwise. But I mean, again, I don't know the nitty gritty on their end.
And it is like optics are just everything, and sentiment is everything with this stuff. And it's like, it's not like they were at risk of having a Firefest level execution of a conference. It's like you saw people were really enjoyed the Moonbirds experience at NFT NYC last, what was it, spring or summer? I mean, all they did was have like some nice cocktails and a little hangout, and like people were like, "This is awesome."
Fanny packs.
I love it.
That was a fanny pack era.
That
right?
was the fanny pack one. It's like, it's not that hard to just like pull off an event. It's like, my God. And I had listened to a few of their podcasts too, and he's talking about, all the guests they got lined up, and we're gonna blow your minds with some of these people booked. And it's like, I don't know. It seems like their kind of lack of vision, both from a literal event planning standpoint and just like a roadmap standpoint. I mean, the whole reason we got excited about this team theoretically was that they were going to be able to execute. And they had a proven track record of like delivering, and they were going to bring a level of professionalism to all this stuff. And they're like, they're as big of a shit show as half the rugs out there.
Yeah, it's tough. I'd say they've been like more of a shit show, honestly.
Well, yeah, expectations adjusted for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, West, man.
Dude.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on, before we end this one, I do want to get a little bit of your input, Pete. Who are the upcoming rookies that I should be targeting in these best ball drafts? Because
we one of my real quick, a big board or a little board or something.
I do not have another 45 minutes.
We don't got.
I think I would be murdered.
Yeah.
But I like. So one of my definitely weaknesses with best ball is I literally follow zero college football. I don't think I could like prior to knowing about the best ball stuff, I couldn't have told you who Bryce Young was. Like I basically, if there's college football on like ESPN or something, I like close my eyes and like block out my ears. So I know nothing. I just know that Bijan Robinson's supposed to be the best running backs prospects, and Saquon Barkley is what I'm being told on the internet.
Yeah.
But so my strategy has just been I'm just drafting like a fuck ton of rookies in my drafts. Like I think I had one draft where I had like 9 rookies drafted or something ridiculous. And so, yeah, what's the alpha?
My take, and we actually just on Splash Play earlier today, we had Crane on, and we went through like all the rookies and having almost this exact conversation of like, who's overpriced, who's underpriced. And my main thing, I've had a little harder time pulling the trigger on some of the rookie wide receivers just because they're expensive. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba goes in the 5th. Quentin Johnson's not too far after him. Addison as well. However, I will not talk you out of drafting basically any rookie running back after like round 9. And I also think Bijan's fine where he's going, as is Gibbs. And Crane has Gibbs just like in a tier of his own there. But like historically too, where we get the 0 RB breakouts, it's always that like round 9 through 14 range. And basically all those guys, starting with Charbonnet, Sean Tucker, A-Chain, Tajay, like all those guys go in that range. And like, I'm similar to you. I'm almost always taking just at least 2 to 3 of those rookie running backs in that round 9 to 15 range, just knowing these are the guys that can just be the Tyler Algier or the Damian Pierce and just massively outperform their costs. And then the second thing, I'm having a harder time with the wide receivers, but running backs, tight ends, and QBs, I'm loading up on. The QBs are all cheap. Anthony Richardson's essentially free, and he could be like what people hoped Malik Willis was going to be, as someone who could like run and be a dual threat that's starting, later in the season. And then the tight ends, the tight ends is the strength of this class. You got this guy, Michael Mayer, who's probably going to be a top 15 pick out of Notre Dame. And he's like going after Gerald Everett in drafts. And I know people are like spooked about, rookie tight ends, but every year we see these guys producing earlier, and he's essentially free. So I'm pretty pro loading up on rookies in these drafts.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. I've also been taking a lot of early QBs, but that's also, it's kind of wild. I've done a decent amount of these drafts. I have not drafted below pick 6 so far. So I've just had like some weird variance
Okay.
left there.
Yeah.
And so I found myself like pretty consistently in a place where I feel really comfy taking like a Mahomes, Hurts, Allen. But I found myself doing that a lot recently as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't taken the early quarterbacks that much just because I've liked a lot of the kind of like value in the mid to late range where I've been taking Tua, I've been taking Geno. Sam Howell is very cheap, and then liking the rookies too, Stroud and those guys go in the 12. Oh, and Lance, of course. Trey Lance is still going late. Jordan Love is another guy I like taking.
Yeah, I've been taking Love a good bit.
But to your point, like that's just because right now, if these ADPs hold, like I am going to bite the bullet and get my fair share of those guys who are going in the second round. I'm just having a little sticker shock on them right now.
How's the Brees Hall bags looking so far, Pete?
Well, I'm only like 8 or 9 drafts deep, but I've been scooping him up. I think I'm at like 20 or 30%.
Where's he going?
He's going like early
24?
third round. Yeah.
I mean, I'm I like the second year running backs have seemed to be a good thing to bank on. Interested to hear your take on the rookie tight ends because I feel like historically, I mean, like Trey McBride is probably the best example of a rookie tight end, like coming in and like contributing pretty incredibly off the jump. Maybe Freiermuth, but that's an interesting take, but I like it.
Well, even think about last year. So Greg Dulcich was an every week fantasy starter. And then 3 guys towards the end, like Jelani Woods had a spike week. Trey McBride, when Cliff finally pulled his head out of his ass because he had no choice, he started producing. Daniel Bellinger was an every down starter for the Giants. So like, if you get a guy with actual pedigree in there,
is it a good tight end class?
Yes, it's a very good tight end class. Yeah.
Nice.
Some people like Kincaid, but Mayer, I think, is supposed to be like a top 15 pick overall in the draft.
Interesting.
Nice.
I've
really liked. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, man.
I've really liked that. Like, I feel like there's like a second, or maybe it's almost a third tier of running back that you hit in like the 50s and 60s of this draft. That feels really cozy. Where you get like the Mixon, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams. Like, yeah, I feel like they're going for a little bit too cheap comparatively, and even the guys like in that next year down, like Cam Akers, Pacheco, Kamara. It's a very weird running back year. I kind of feel like where there's like a lot of uncertainty with a lot of guys. Where it's like I don't really understand why, or I guess I do understand, but it's like weird to see Dalvin Cook going at like pick 60 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those guys all, I think the Cook stuff with he's going to be getting surgery. Has he already had that surgery?
On the shoulder?
I know he's scheduled to get it. But yeah, I do think it's a byproduct of drafting this early because like what will happen as the season progresses is everyone like will try to project volume and be like, this guy projects. And so if like everything's going good with Dalvin Cook's rehab and everything, like he'll just slowly start to inch up. And it kind of like plays out like the same thing happened with Alvin Kamara last year with the like looming fake suspension, where he started in the 4th round and then those suspension risks get slightly removed more and more, and then he inches up. And I do think like taking advantage of these deals, because normally we always talk about the running back dead zone and these guys that you're wanting to avoid in this range. But I agree with you. Like Aaron Jones has been like a 2nd, 3rd round pick every year. And I don't think that much has changed. And now you're getting a massive discount on him.
If anything, he just got paid enough where they're going to want to utilize him,
Yeah.
Javonte Williams is like a guy who I think is like super talented and was in a really shitty situation last year and got hurt. Like,
he got rugged.
He's the guy where I just feel like it's going to be like, it's hard to see a world where his position is worse this year than it was last year.
Pacheco sounds like a very interesting pick as where you're talking about him. Like, man, upside wise, especially how they started to use him at the last in the playoffs. Unless they complicate the running back room with like a signing or drafting or something, like you got to reckon that he's got a lot of fun upside in the mid rounds.
It's the trick is like figuring out, I always use the phrase, like which of these running backs could have like a bomb go off in their backfield and just have their value. Like Aaron Jones, like they're good with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. They're not spending even a top 5 round pick on them. The Chiefs wouldn't surprise me if they did something after how much that was like really their one, well, them and the wide receivers, but I could see them drafting and having a bomb go off and Pacheco goes from being like a 7th round guy to a 13th round guy. And so those guys, I'm always a little bit more careful on.
No, it's a gamble for sure, but you can paint a picture where all of a sudden he's a 3rd round pick, right? You get post draft towards the season. I mean, maybe not that high, but up there. Like,
Yeah,
on that offense, on the snaps, if Mahomes has any lingering effects from this ankle situation, you can create a narrative around it. I think that plays.
for sure. For sure. All right, guys, appreciate you hanging out. Definitely enjoying these 4:30 shows. We'll get Jack back in the saddle. I know he's had a lot of busyness with traveling and had an appointment today. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to Mike for swinging by. Happy what is it? Fat Tuesday, Clay?
Happy Mardi Gras. Happy Fat Tuesday.
All right, Andy. Any final words? Any send-offs here?
No. Happy Fat Tuesday. See y'all soon.
All right, peace, guys.